Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are watching us from today. Today, we are blessed to have a special guest, Jaya Jankert, all the way from Stockholm, Sweden. So grateful to have you here. And I'm also pleased to hear that we're only an hour difference, which you're not having to wake up at the crack of dawn. Welcome. I will read your bio after Jamila just greets everyone, as well as yourself.
Hi, Anissa. Hi, Yaya, and a very warm welcome to all of our listeners today. Thank you for joining us as we begin 2025. Anissa, this is um, our first podcast for the new year. So thank you, Yaya,
Absolutely.
for kicking it off with us. And I can just imagine with you as the first, it's going to be a wonderful year with lots of inspirational and motivational guests that we have on with us. And yeah, just wishing everyone, especially our listeners, a warm, um, lovely sense of gratitude to you for being with us in the past year. And we look forward to keeping you with us and growing with us in this new year. Anissa, without any further ado, I'll let you read the impressive bio of Yaya and we can get on with it.
Will do. So, for those that are joining us today, from whichever platform you're on, thank you. The topic for today, or what we decided to go with as a theme, is from survival mode to spiritual abundance. That is probably going to be quite a jam-packed conversation. Just a little bit about Yaya is a Swedish Indian from Stockholm, Sweden, adopted from India, a proud mum of two wise souls. Yaya is a goddess, I love that, spiritual mentor, host of the Soul Conversation podcast, founder of Empowered by Yaya, spiritual speaker, soul stylist, international best-selling author, and professional soul connector. She works with women and men globally looking to stand in their hearts. I love that. Spiritual power, sensuality, and truth to achieve their soul purpose and mission. Her deep intuition and expansion capacity guides her clients through expanding the feminine and masculine divine to find true love and wholeness within themselves. So, where do we begin, Yaya? Where did this journey start for you? I mean, we don't just arrive at this soul empowered space that we have described so beautifully about you. Where did this all start for you?
First of all, I want to say thank you. And also, I intentionally picked this date because I wanted to start this year with you, both of you. So that was intentionally from my end. And yes, where do we start? I think I'm actually going to go back just so people can understand what I'm saying with survival mode and also to
Mm-hmm.
understand how I teach. But for me, when I was born in India, soon to be 50 years ago, I I was actually born into an energy of survival mode. So this is things I obviously didn't know back then, but um, energetically, I was born with not having proper food or physical touch. And then at an age of 2.5 months old, I was adopted to Sweden. Today, I know that there is a lot of things coming up that I have felt within my body about that this adoption was not, it was human trafficked. I kind of get the evidence of it now. But with that said, um, this is also something that's been stored in my cell memory in my body for all these years. And I had my bigger awakening or awareness when I gave birth to my daughter 14 years ago, I would say. But I always felt when I grew up that I was here to teach others from a big stage. I didn't know. I thought it was singing. It wasn't singing, for sure not. but that I was here to guide people. That was kind of coming to me. So I think my spiritual gifts were very open when I was a child, but I wasn't acknowledging them because my parents weren't aware, if that makes sense. Like they weren't spiritual aware back then. So when I had my daughter, I was married with their dad, and she was like such a wise soul, but she also, her inner powers scared me because it was like she was looking through me and kind of saw the whole Yaya without judging, but also very, I remember looking into her eyes was like looking into my own soul. Um,
Mm,
so it was scary, to be honest, back then. I
I'm
wasn't ready.
sure.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. But then I had my son, or we had our son 1.5 years later. And that's when I started to notice that I was out of alignment. I wasn't happy. And I was very much living from survival mode. There was a lot of incidents in the area we lived in and so on. And I'm very, how can I say? I have like a kind of warrior. I'm always um, in a solution mode.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
comes very natural. But I felt that I was very alone, like very alone, doing everything and looking for an emotion of love that I didn't feel within me. My heart was closed back then, pretty close,
Sure.
I would say. Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of, yeah.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Firstly, deep courage to come onto these platforms and share that one, I didn't have an identity at the start of my life. Because that
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing you say. I
Yeah.
had no identity. I latched onto a wounded trauma attachment type of identity, which was in the wounded masculine.
Yeah.
Hence, it's making a bit of sense why you're doing the work that you're doing, why you felt called to do this, because, this was your soul contract.
Yeah.
As much as we feel that, why did this happen to us? I thought I heard you say trafficking,
Yeah.
so the human trafficking aspect of it,
Yeah.
which is rife in this present day and age that we are living in.
Yes.
So I think the work that you are called to do is such important work. And I, I'm really intrigued to understand, how did the shift happen? And we don't have to go in there just yet,
No.
but there's all these things. So who were the people that, made you feel safe, where you didn't step into that solution mode, because the solution mode, when you're in your wounded masculine, I'm
Mm,
speaking from experience,
mm,
is that we're radically independent and it's a fear state, right?
mm.
The fear of
Yeah.
being disappointed, the fear of not belonging, the fear of not being enough or worthy of. Who was in your corner, Yaya? Besides your kids being that mirror that you needed to do work prior to your kids, who was holding that sacred space for you?
Wow. That's such a beautiful. I love how you also, yeah, put everything together. It's like spot on. Um, to be honest, it was only myself because my I didn't open my heart completely to anyone. So it was a lack of trust. Um, so even if I have an open aura and can be very like outgoing and all of that, I just let people back then in like here somewhere, like not this part, not the closer part. So to my heart, I, but what I would say is that I think in my corner was the way I could also connect with something much higher within me, but I wasn't conscious aware of it, if that makes sense. So because I felt that I always been guided and protected. And I'm talking
Camila, would you
about,
like to come in there?
yeah, love to.
Yeah, Anissa, I think this is an experience that I think we're both familiar with. When you're in that consistent state of survival mode,
Yeah.
you are just you are operating from a space of fear.
Yeah.
And in as much as you have to do what it is that you need to do and continue and go on with life and make it seem as normal as possible,
Mm.
it isn't. And as a result, you find that you do keep a distance from people, a protectiveness about you. um, and that's not easy. It's not easy to do. It's not an easy life to sustain, because like we've spoken many times before, Anissa, this is that state of toxic resilience that we slip into.
Mm.
And we think that we're doing great things and we're multitasking like no one's ever done before, but we don't realize the impact, the negative impact that this has on us and on
Mm.
our lives. And it's not something that's sustainable, even though we are able to have maintained it for years,
Mm.
possibly. But eventually, it's something that you have to deal with and sit down and be aware of in your life. And Anissa, I mean, for me, this has come at such a later stage in my life, where I've thought that I'm managing, I'm coping, but only
Mm.
to realize that I'm actually living in that survival mode. And
Yeah.
it affects every other relationship that it has in your life. It affects your life as you see it and experience it on a day-to-day basis. Um, what are some, I mean, now that you in that state of awareness,
Mm.
um, what are some of the tools that you used, that you can perhaps share with our listeners to make those of us who don't actually quite realize that this is the state that we are in, but just to become more aware of it and how to deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say gratitude is the easiest, quickest way to make yourself aware of how much you can be grateful for right now in your life. And it could be the smallest things, but to really acknowledge that every morning before you go up. I mean, before you go up from bed. And then make that as a habit. So you have to practice it. I would say I can find beauty in the smallest things. That's why I call my life living from a spiritual abundance today. Um, but that you can do it, the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you be it, I would say. That is one thing. And also to tell the people that you actually honor and love in your life, to tell them why you appreciate them. What is it that you actually feel when it comes to people you have in your life? That is two things, but also to calm your thoughts and be aware what kind of thoughts you have. Like that's number one, I would say. But if you go into gratitude, you can't be in fear. You know this, both of you. So I would say that's the number one, because everyone can practice it. And the more you live from that state, the more ease you will feel. Of course, it's also about the deep healing work and all that. But no matter where you're at, this is something I do every day, all the time now. So I don't think about it. I'm just being in that state most of my even when you get tested. Because life tests you, because you're here to grow. So that is kind of the number one that I would say, is to truly and to feel gratitude. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. You
Mm.
know, I'm reflecting on what you also mentioned earlier on. The reality is that nothing is permanent. So as much as we have these storms
Yeah.
and as much as we have the blissful moments, the art to living a spiritually enlightened life, I would ask you, would you
Mm.
say is that releasing the idea or the attachment to that it's got to be constant happiness all the time, constant joy all the time, because our thoughts are going to be negative at times. It's
Yeah.
going to be disempowering and self limiting at times. But what I'm hearing you say is that how do we not participate in it, but rather embrace it because they're going to be coming? What I do want to ask you though is given your your profile, we're speaking about being a spiritual mentor, being a goddess, host, you host your own soul conversation podcast.
Mm.
We never quite arrive. I firmly believe that my learning and more deeply my unlearning is from the cradle to the grave. Because as Jamila is saying, only later in her life does she discover that she's been in the survival mode.
Mm.
Same here,
Yeah.
I intuitively knew it, but I wasn't able to have the necessary tools on how to get out of that space. How do we actually, besides the practices that you've mentioned around gratitude and probably breath work as well, and not
Yeah.
participating in the thoughts, but how do we become more soul aligned with ourselves so that the outside challenges, obstacles, barriers are more embraced than they are grudged?
I would say curiosity, because the more curious you are, when, like you said, I have negative thoughts on a daily basis coming up, trying to disturb me. So I can choose. I can entertain them, or I can be curious. Okay, what does this actually mean? Something that I need to go within me and feel and heal. So I would say the more curious I am, the less like you said, the less attached I am that something would be good or bad. It's not, nothing is good or bad. It's just information. It's just information we can be curious about. So yeah, I would say curious, and then for me, and when I guide my clients, it is to not be stuck in that negative self-talk, to actually, like you said, breathe. That's number one, absolutely. And to be curious, what is this showing us that we need to go deeper within, without judging. Everything is a practice, and when we judge, okay, that's fine. We're humans, we're here to, to grow. uh, but curiosity is my number one, I would say.
Yeah, Anissa, I think I agree with that. And I think it's about reframing and unlearning the way that have been um, we've been told and taught to think about our
Mm.
life experiences and what they mean, and whether it's negative or whether it's positive. And for me, like for many years, that's how I felt, oh, this is happening to me because I
Yeah.
did this, or this something bad's happening to me because it's too good to be true. I was too happy, I was this, I was that, and I always saw things in negative and positive, and from a space of judgment, really. But now that I've become more aware and I'm more curious and I want to learn, and I've attracted different people into my life from who I learn every day, I realize that it's about the journey and the experience. And that every experience that we encounter is one that's here to teach us the lessons that we have actually asked for from before we were born into this world, right? It's the same thing as the parents that we choose. We chose particular parents because we were here to learn certain things from them. It was a choice of ours. But I think as we progress into childhood and adulthood and beyond, society molds us in a way where we forget that. We tend to forget it. And it's about us coming back to our inner child, and that little child who was all knowing and born knowing why we were put on this earth, and to experience it without judgment, to experience it without attachment. Um, and yeah, I think it's just about reframing that and looking at life from a different perspective. But also, just as you, and I think Anissa, you would agree as well, we always have this knowing that there's a higher being out there, and that faith and that trust that we have in that higher being, for me, has shaped my journey going forward. So I absolutely agree with you on that, and I love to emphasize that always be curious, always ask questions, and always try to debunk and get rid of, those levels of judgment. But the only way that you're able to do that is if you have to bring it inward, and if you start with yourself, with self-forgiveness, letting go of judgment of yourself, because only then do you experience what it is and can pay that forward to the next person.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. You said you were divinely guided at this young age, right?
Yeah.
And so you were able to access this inner sage within yourself, right? But do tell our audience or share, what were those signs, or what did you connect to? I mean, yeah, I'm being curious right now and pretty intrigued, because I can connect to always feeling as a young girl that there was more to life than what I was born into,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a connection for me when you say, even though that identity of being adopted or trafficked or all of those things were there, you always knew that this guidance is being given to you. How do we access or tap into or become more conscious to see that guidance and to feel through that guidance? Are there ways? Are there methods? When did
I
you discover it for yourself?
Yeah. Nature. I was out in the nature when I discovered I'm having, like, I have very easy to connect the dots and to see patterns and details. So for me, it was a lot of dreams I used to have when I was a child about being chased. It was kind of an action movie, but I was never caught because I could always fly. That was like a constant dream I had. And I was like, this is interesting. What does it mean? And I was curious, and I also let it go. But I would also say one of my tools when I grew up as well was actually to heal without knowing it through some films and movies and series that I was looking at. Like I was entering another world. That's how I felt it. And I know my dad was like, "You're watching something for so long. What are you doing? Like, go out, do something else." And what I was doing back then, I didn't know it then, but it was to kind of allow myself to feel all these emotions that I have within me, but I never felt really safe to express. So I think I played. We had a dog when I grew up, like several dogs, but I was playing with a dog and was a lot out in the nature, and in my imaginary like world, I had a lot of different worlds that I set up for myself, and I felt very free and alive. So I think the guidance was an inner knowing that I tapped into, but very much on and off, because I didn't trust it all the time because of the conditioning and programming that was going on as well, because my parents didn't know more back then. um I don't know if this answers your question, but that's that's how I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, and yeah, yeah. Tell me something. I mean, you in the space now where you at a level, a spiritually heightened level, right, and
Yeah.
of great awareness. And when I think of India, this
Yeah.
is what comes to mind first. And have you been back? Um, have you gone back? Have you gone on any spiritual journeys there? Maybe is this something that you've always felt that you long to do, um, or haven't you been?
I was actually, for so many years, I closed that door until the last 5 years, something like that. I don't think it's more than 5 years, but time is so abstract. But um, so I haven't been back yet, but I have. What I started to do 5 years ago, I started to create a network here in Sweden with people. I just called it out, like I want to connect with people living in Sweden from India, and then they started to show up, and then I started to do it in India as well, but more. I took the action as well, like because I love connecting with people, and I have a big network now there, so I will go back. I haven't yet. I think one part of me is still a little bit scared of how I will feel. I know I want to put my feet on the ground and feel the earth. The scarcity has been a lot of trauma that I had to heal, that was in my cell memory about sexual abuse and stuff that comes from India and ancestral trauma. So I think I haven't been ready until now. I start to open up more, but I haven't, scheduled a trip yet. I haven't.
That was a great question, Jamila.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that when you do finally go, I'm pretty sure that when your feet touch the ground, I think
Yeah,
that there will be that connection there.
I
I
think
think
so.
you will certainly feel something because it's not just a physical connection; it's that spiritual connection that
Yeah.
you will be reuniting um, with. And I mean, I do wish you everything of the best when you do have that experience, and I know that you will.
Yeah.
Um, and you've created the great networks, and I think that's something that will help you as well, um, to make the experience more pleasant, to make the experience less traumatic, or however you're feeling about it, however because I'm sure there's mixed feelings about it,
Yeah.
um, which is natural. But I'm sure that with the connections that you've made and with the work that you are doing, it will be something that would be a smooth transition, and that you will get every positive um, experience from it.
Thank you. Yeah, I can feel that too. But thank you so much. And I think I love your questions because it makes me reflect deeper why I haven't been back yet. And I think for my own, to make the trip more safe, that's when I have my people that I feel very connected to. And most of them are younger than me. It doesn't matter because I have a lot of young people in my life. So that's also interesting that many of them are 20 to 30, like 20 to 35 years old.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. But I feel very soul connected with them. So I feel safe. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
has
yeah.
it
Before I
has
jump
it
into another question, I want to just acknowledge we have our chef, which is another beautiful soul, all the way from Toronto, Canada, calling in, or at least watching us. He's got a few comments here. He says, we hold our own larger purpose within. Yes, living with and within gratitude opens proper paths. Then he also says, allowance and acceptance moves us beyond survival. Sharing one of my favorites. Meet me in the middle of your story when the soul is worn but wise. Angie that's by Angie Welland Crosby. Yeah, so there's some lovely comments there from him. I want to add on to Jamila's question because I think it's an important one to explore a bit more deeply. Because when we are being called to an adventure in this hero's journey, we either accept it or we refuse. We heed that call or we refuse the call. And at times, when we refuse, the universe will force us through some experience that happens. Now, going into this abyss is what you're being called for because it is entering that darkness, which is this cell memory experiences. But only once we do that do we gain insight. So, what is the demons or dragons or villains that you need to slay that is still within that is not causing you to jump into this unknown part of the hero's journey?
You mean what I still have that I want to release? Is that your
Yes,
question? I
yes.
would say the rejection wound is the shadow side that I'm here to, like a life task to integrate and accept. And I'm on that journey, but I still have uh, resistance within me. There's just a few people that I, let in, knowing the wholeness of me, I would say. And two of them are my children. And then it's my love, uh, and another friend. But so it is to trust that I'm safe, no matter. Because if I'm safe here within me, then no matter what, I mean, I know that I can, since we're mirroring, I mean, we are mirroring each other all the time. I also know that my shadow side can be what do you call it now? Arrogance. And arrogance in belittling. This is very, like, now I'm being totally honest, but it's being belittling others. This is so not nice. When I feel attacked. So in terms of spirituality, which that I'm expanding and expanding and expanding, and I channel energy now in a way that I'm very grateful for, that's been something that I've been like, when I have felt attacked, I need to be very conscious. Okay, breathe, go away, do something else. Don't respond immediately in being arrogant, I would say. Yeah. So that's
That's so
that's what I'm
admirable that you're able to
working
acknowledge
for.
it. Yeah, no, we don't want to acknowledge the shadow side. We want to project and blame and judge
Yeah.
and shame everyone else. And so when that comes up, I always use this term: your triggers are your treasures. And Joseph Campbell's statement, "The cave you fear to enter is where the gems are, where the treasure lies." So
Mm,
that's why I asked that question: what's the trigger here? And safety is a big thing. Psychological
mm,
safety is underestimated. If we don't feel safe within our bodies or within our environments, it's very, very difficult to make. Intellectually, we can intellectualize all the parts of the spiritual aspects of it.
mm,
But if we don't actually embody it and allow, you said in another comment earlier on or statement, I allow myself to feel to heal.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very powerful.
And
Jamila.
I yeah, sorry, can I just say something?
No, go for it.
Yeah, because what you're saying is what I believe is needed more of in the outside world, that to be courageous to actually feel the pain and to
Mm,
integrate and embrace it, because it's here, like you say, here to teach us. It's not here to
yes.
harm us. It's not. And what you said, Jamila, before, which I also love, is yes, we have chosen everything. I chose to be here. I didn't know. I mean, the human trafficking part, I talked to my mother about that like a couple of weeks ago, because I have known it within me. But now the evidence, the outside proof is coming to me, because I haven't been, I just known it and then I let it go. So I think what you said, yes, we attract everything because we're here to learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And accept.
And accept it. Yeah, learn it
Yeah.
and accept it, and just be open to it, despite um, the fear we feel of being
Mm.
hurt, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we do, is that we become so defensive in the way that we approach life, because we're so fearful of feeling that pain, of
Mm.
being disappointed, of being rejected, that it puts you into this hypervigilant, defensive state. And that's where the arrogance comes in, that's where the ego comes in, but all from a sense of protecting self. Um, but in as much as you think that you're protecting, you're also limiting yourself and cutting yourself off from the experiences, or the great experiences that we have, the positive influences that we might experience later on in life. So it's about actually breaking down that fear that we have of experiencing the hurt and the pain. And sometimes we need to do that so that we can get to that next level of
Mm.
consciousness, that next level of awareness, um, that's necessary for us to self-educate about. Um, but certainly not an easy a journey to take, and one has to be very brave and courageous. But the only way that you can be brave and courageous is by having that spiritual connectedness that
Mm.
you have now found yourself within, because that's what makes it easier. Because in being able to have the faith and trust,
Mm.
and knowing that at the end of the day, this is all serving you. It's not happening to you because you've been bad, or that you've done something wrong, or that you should feel guilty, but it's just taking you from that one level to the next of your self consciousness, awareness, and spirituality.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Mm.
You mentioned about the fact that, like with the trafficking and stuff like that, and you had this inner knowing and this inner sense, but now things are coming to you.
Yeah.
How are you coping with this? And you did say that you had a conversation with your mom. How are you finding this part of the journey now? Um, because I know that it could be, you could have a lot of anger and resentment and bitterness attached to it, but where you are at now in your spiritual journey, I'm sure, has allowed you to let go of a lot of that. And I'm not saying all of it, because we humans, we do feel the emotions and whatnot. But where are you now with that?
Um, I would say much more at peace, because I so believe that this is part of why I'm here. So when I had my first channel about the human trafficked children through a great Swedish musician. He's no longer with us, Avicii. And this was a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine said he has written a song about human trafficking. And he's Swedish, and the name just came to me. It's Avicii. And I didn't know about the song until I received it. So I received it. I looked at YouTube. and the video, and all the pain from the children just was coming through me. So I was screaming in the pillow because there was so intense energy, but also liberation. And I was like, what is going on? Because this is when I open up to what I like, the power that I actually have. We all are so powerful. We all have like these amazing gifts within us.
Yeah.
But I was scared at the time. So I would say today it's like putting the puzzle together. Like I'm very good at, okay, this was meant to happen. Let's see what will unravel. So today it's more, I know I'm not going to do my spiritual work in the darkness. I do it. I do it with my clients to bring them, to guide them into their own demons and meet them, but not demons, but dark shadow sides. But what I say is I know so much what's going on. I've been to places where I wish no one will go ever or be in situation in past lives as well, and what is still going on. So I'm not meant to be there, but I'm very aware. And how can I say? I'm here to end human trafficking with a lot of like so many beautiful souls that are awake now. But if we don't get inner peace within us, there will be no outer peace. It's up to every single one on this planet to do the work, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. That's wonderful to hear. And I don't know if you've watched that movie. I think it's called Lion.
Yes, I watched it. Yeah.
I mean, that must have been so emotional for
Yeah.
you because you would have related completely to that, right?
Yeah.
And that's also a true story of his journey and the trafficking that was involved and the lovely family that he grew up with, and then how he did all the work to reconnect from his memory
Yeah.
um, of where he came from. And Anissa, I'm not sure if you've watched it, but if you haven't, you got to do that today. And for whoever's um, listening today and hasn't watched it, but what a powerful movie! What a
Yeah.
moving experience, and life story. So, tell me a little bit about your experience when you watched the movie and
Oh,
how you felt.
I love that you bring it up because I remember it was 2019 that I don't know. It just came to me that I was going to watch it, and I was really digging where can I see it because it wasn't on Netflix and so on. I remember,
Yeah.
and then I found it and I paid for it, and I was like, finally. Back then, what is it? 6 years ago now. I had just started to heal some sexual trauma in my body and stuff, doing it my way back then, and I cried. I think I cried the whole movie. I cried for like, and I cried afterwards as well. But I would love to see it today. So yeah, and see what kind of emotion comes up now,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
how can I relate? Because back then it was more, and what do you say, eye opener, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yeah. Especially,
but I
especially
cried. Oh, I cried.
considering, yeah, especially considering that that's when you were doing your work,
Yeah,
and we were healing from the abuse and whatnot, and then to have to watch this movie that's actually your story,
yeah,
it would have been a real eye opener. So it would be very interesting to see how you respond to seeing it today, and how far in the last 6 years you've come in your journey. And just one more thing that I wanted to point on is that you mentioned that you help your clients, but in as much as you helping them in their journey, they are healing you as well in the work that you are doing with them.
yeah,
And that's what's so amazing about this space that we all find ourselves in, is that through our clients, it's not a one-way exchange. We get so much back from our clients and have so much healing through their healing
Mm.
from our experiences.
I had a client here today, and she loves to say that we are in collaboration. I love that. I'm just tapping into her energy, but she's a mirror of me. We have so many like similarities in our
Mm.
stories and stuff. Emotional, I'm talking about. Of course, her story
Yes.
is her story. Mine is mine, but emotional. So I love what you're saying. Yes, definitely. And I haven't been the best to acknowledge my own journey all the time, to celebrate it. Now I intentionally celebrate it, like on a daily basis. I didn't before. So I dimmed my story and the work I was doing for such a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
You
Amazing.
know,
Anissa, sorry, before you go on, that was my, for 2025 going into it, these were the thoughts that I had, is that no longer dim your light.
Yeah.
Let your light shine
mm,
as brightly as it's meant to shine. And for whoever feels uncomfortable in that light, they are on their own path. But for this year, I think I resonate with you on that. Allow yourself to shine as brightly as you've been meant um, to do so.
Yeah.
I love the celebratory aspect of that because we don't celebrate ourselves enough. I do want to come back to Avicii, and you know why? Because
Mm.
I just watched it on Netflix yesterday, and I was sobbing. I
Mm.
don't know if you watched it, Avicii. I Am Tim. Have you watched the movie on
I
Netflix?
started to watch it, but I was not in the right space. I was like, I leave it for now and I go back and see it. I kind of haven't, there's so much about him that I have had downloads
Downloads.
for several years. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean he was so young. Like if I think about the music, he was so aligned and divinely guided at a very young age as
Yeah.
well. And what I picked up, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I'd love for you both to watch it as well. The biggest thing is that if we're not in our core authenticity, our essence,
Yeah.
our light, that is when we are moving into that darkness. It's a different level of darkness,
Mhm.
but it means that we can't be our true selves, the truest expression of what we were always meant to be. So I don't want to spoil more of the movie. I'd love for you to watch it, but what I wanted to ask, what was the song that you channeled? What was the name of that
Mm.
title of that song?
Uh, for a better day. I think I say it right. I think it says for a better day. Or is it just better day? For a better day, I think
Mm,
is the title. Yeah. And if you watch
that was
the
one of his
video,
deep. Yes,
see it on YouTube.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we must add it as a link here because there's a
Yeah.
lot of messages in that movie or
Yeah.
documentary and a lot of messages in his songwriting. And
Yeah.
we underestimate, how much the messages are that we are given on a daily basis, but we blind or we're not listening. How do we start to listen better or see easier during these experiences? Because we do get these messages and this light downloads, I want to call it,
Yeah.
to many people out there. How do we become more tuned to it, Yaya? Can you guide us?
I would say um it all starts with the mind. If we have a lot of thoughts, kind of like a highway speeding around, nature and breathing first, just so you can get your nervous system a little bit calmer. But then I would say the more we unfold the embodiment work, so you have to feel the
Mm,
pain to release it and accept it and forgiveness, all these steps. So for me it's awareness. This is this is basically, I think, what so many people do, but the awareness, the acceptance, and that's the part that I, to be radical acceptant, it's a little bit different, I would say, from my own experience to just have an acceptance, and then feel and heal. That's how I say it. Have compassionate forgiveness and compassionate, and let go. That's kind of the steps I'm working with. But I would say the more dense energy you release from your body, the more you can open up to, because the more peace you will have, and the more you can open up. It's like filling a glass of this is water. So if I feel it, feel it, of course the water will run over. And so if you have so many thoughts that you can't even connect with your heart, you have to stop somewhere. So if this is empty and you pour it in a little bit by little until it's full here, but you do it slowly. Because I would encourage everyone that if you want to be more spiritual, enlightened, whatever we can call it, it's also necessary to have the courage to also release what's no longer serves us within. You have to feel. That's really- that's
I
how I
think
feel.
also in my experience, it's about the people that you have around you
Oh yes.
and how they impact on you positively. Because for me, like having people like you come on every week, just gives us so much of it, educates us to so many other things out there. But having somebody like Anissa, who can be a sounding board for me, who is someone there to encourage me and to um, encourage my light to shine brighter.
Mm.
Because a lot of the times we are very um, we are lacking in self-confidence, and
Mm.
it's in allowing those beings like the Anisas of the world and other very special people in my space who I wouldn't have necessarily had before, because coming from that defensive space where
Mm.
you always want to self-protect, you put up those walls and you don't allow the good to come in. So getting to a space where okay, I can trust myself to lower those walls, because I want to attract the good people in.
Mm.
So for me, that's a huge factor, is to have these um, souls in your life who are encouraging and inspiring and motivating, and have your best um, self interest at heart.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. There's some more beautiful comments I just want to read to you.
Yes.
Jamila, before I read the comment, thank you for that very kind hearted acknowledgement. I receive it and it's reciprocal. It always is reciprocal. So thank you for being in my life too, and also being the mirror to hold me accountable when I am in my victim consciousness, I would say. So
No, you're
there's a
welcome.
lovely comment here from, yeah,
No, it's
go for it.
important because it's important, like you said, for us to express gratitude,
Mm.
and gratitude for the big things and the little things and the consistently small things that are just there every day, and that we know, and it's easy to take for granted, but it's important for us to always be constantly grateful for that. So Anissa, I do really truly value you in my life. um, and
Oh,
I do hope, and I know you do this for a lot of other people, but I just want to acknowledge that at the start of the
I'm
new
grateful.
year, so that you know how special and dear you are.
I'm grateful. And what you see in me is a mirror reflection of you. So thank you. Here's what Ashif has to say. Spirituality and mindfulness changed my life. I was highly self aware and driven, however, lacked to embrace more of myself as a whole being. He also says be heart centered and be equally mind centered prior to. Last one, he says allowance and acceptance moves. Oh no, we've read that one already. And I think that was it from Ashif.
Mm.
We have 6 minutes remaining. And I really want you to share a bit more about and celebrate, as we alluded to earlier, your successes as an international author, your own podcast. Share with us more of those beautiful, profound experiences. I'm going to call it experiences, not things or constructs or forms that developed because of you going to face yourself
Oh,
through this journey.
I think, when we started this conversation, I said that I kind of knew that I had a purpose on stage somewhere. And for me, it just came to me. I want to have this kind of conversation we are having now. So I will bring it in a podcast format. Like that's my stage sharing with globally with the people. And for me, it was very. I wanted it to be very spiritual, but also where people could be themselves to share where they were coming from in their story and their purpose, and then just flow in whatever is necessary to talk about in terms of spirituality. And I would say when I had that, I was not ready to put it out on Spotify at once. So I started in my group that I had on Facebook. I no longer have it now, but I used to have. So that's where, through StreamYard, as you are using, I started to have the conversations there. So I think I recorded like 10 episodes or something before I had a coach. And I was like, no, I'm not ready, but I'm doing it anyway. Like I'm putting it out there because I had told myself that I wasn't technical enough and all these limiting beliefs. And I was like, of course I can manage to put the podcast out. And then I did in May 2023. And then I just continued to have it grow. I think it's up in 80. I will actually record my own episode today. So 89 episodes or something now. And I would love both of you on the podcast. So that is something I just felt,
Congratulations.
drawn to do. Yeah,
Mm.
purpose wise.
Congratulations, because like Jamila and I, we also started and said, "Hey, well, whatever, we're not going to have the top notch technical equipment or anything. We just start where we are." So taking it to Spotify is definitely putting yourself out there and
Yeah.
coming into almost, in full acceptance
Mm.
with who you are and what you believe you're putting out into the world. So that is a monumental milestone that
Mm.
one can celebrate. And I just want to
Thank you.
acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
That's the
Absolutely.
next journey for myself and Jamila. And so we will lean on you to get some tips and on how you pursued this. And yeah, we would love to come onto your podcast as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
and Anissa, I think also just to let you know, yeah, is that the gratitude also for you putting yourself out there and sharing your gift with
Yeah.
everybody um, who's ready to listen to it.
Mm.
And that comes from a space of um, unselfishness, because you're
Mm.
there, you're bearing yourself, you're bearing the journey, your experiences that you've had, as painful as it might be, and sharing it with people out there to help them
Mm.
um, in their own personal journeys. So thank you for that, and again, also congratulations to you for doing so well on your podcast. And Anissa and I will for sure be asking you for some guidance on the road ahead for us.
Thank you. Thank you so
What
much.
about the book?
The
The
book,
book. Tell us
I
about the
was,
book.
yeah, I was part of a book. My book coach, I call her Emma Hamlin. She's in Australia. It was her sixth volume to bring in over
Mm.
20 women writing one chapter each. For me, it was a start to bring out part of my story. But the interesting part is at the end, I went into the spiritual part and where I'm actually living now. So for me back then, I was like, this is scary. Okay, but I do it because I knew I was ready to do it, but I was also scared. It's just a few sentences when I step into something that we are talking about now. And this was back in 2021. What I'm doing now is that I'm writing my own. I already had one manuscript almost ready about soul styling, but that's not something I work daily with now. I'm not that passionate about it that I used to be. So now I'm actually writing about my journey when it comes to this kind of this conversation and the survival mode, because there's something I want to add. What I have learned is in my journey, I'm here to actually also experience the karmatic lessons that I haven't like fully learned or embraced in this lifetime, to taking myself into state of survival mode in my life to be able to release them. So I lost a lot of money a couple of years ago. I've been rebuilding everything. And that's part of this book as well, because I haven't been ready to share that part. And so I know how it is to be hungry. I know how it is to work from your car. And there, I'm living now at my mother's farm in my cottage. Like, I don't have a proper toilet right now. I have like outdoors. And like, so I'm very humble of being grateful of the small things, I would say. Yeah.
Anissa,
Jamila, you want to share about the book experience?
unbelievable how, we all have the same experiences and how we've connected, right?
Yeah.
But Anissa and I have a similar story as yours, and we've also been a part of, authors within this anthology of stories from various different authors. Anissa is the one who introduced me to this, and we also wrote a chapter each about our life story.
Of course.
And just to take a little, speak a little further about your experience and about going through life with humility because of the experiences that have made us humble, the challenges that we've had to live through as single moms, not having, a steady income during some periods of our lives. Um, yeah, the challenges that you go through, the insecurities that you feel, the doubt that um, just takes over your mind, but that indomitable spirit that I think all three of us share, and I'm sure that a lot of women and men out there share as well, is something that absolutely resonates.
Mm.
So I do believe, I'm a strong believer in knowing that there's an interconnectedness between us. Um, and even though we may not know it at certain points in our life, but it's written for us to meet. It's written for us to connect because there's a greater purpose that's meant to come from it.
Yeah. And
So
I have to add, when I saw your post about the podcast, I was drawn to it. And then I know, okay, I need to apply, I need to write everything. And your beautiful virtual assistant as well. I mean, I have had contact with her a lot. I felt an urge. This is a yes for me. Yeah.
I know we've come to the end, but I just want to, my departing point today is to acknowledge you for your courage, for your bravery, for your vulnerability, for your calm presence. And just, I feel very connected to you because our stories have many parallels. And I think we always are divinely guided towards one another. As you say, the post. So very grateful that you took the time to join us today. We will share more of our story when we join your podcast. So we'll be waiting on that invitation. And I just want to ask you in closing, what would be one of your wise, sage um, words of advice or encouragement that you want to leave the audience with today?
Um, I would say celebrate yourself where you're at exactly right now, even if you feel you are in a challenge or struggled energy, whatever that is, and that you are guided. You're always guided. Yeah. And you're never alone, because that's been my trauma, to feel alone. Yeah. Mm.
Beautiful parting words. Thank you so much, Yaya, for joining us,
Thank you.
for sharing your lovely story, for being so vulnerable, and putting it out there because it helps. I mean, I can see Anissa is emotional. It's it's with such gratitude. Um, that we accept you on this, and we hope that we have continued communication with you, and um, yeah, it's a beautiful story, and thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to share with us. We really truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Do stay on with us until we're going to end this live now. Yes, I am emotional because there's so many parallels and I'm kind of connecting to it all. Thank you for all of the people on Instagram who joined us. I have been trying to type away and just acknowledge your presence here. Thank you for being with us on the first very, very powerful episode, I would say, to kick us off for the year. Jamila, thank you for always showing up and being consistent, no matter if you are traveling and doing many things at once. I do value that. And I look forward to our next episode next week. For now, I'm going to close off and then do stay with us here. We'll do a short debrief afterwards. Bye, everyone. Until next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.